Hello everybody. As a teenager, I recall that I didn't have a care in the world. I was always very happy and content with the fact that when I studied and I did well in school, that I'd be able to be wealthy and prosperous in life. Little did I realize soon after high school that after getting a part-time job and not really getting as much as I thought I would, I was still paying off my bills, but I wasn't really saving any money. And that's why we're here today. My name is Alejandro Bustamante, and we're going to be talking about the basics to financial planning. So, without further ado, first thing I want to talk to you about today is budgeting. So although many of you have already done budgets in your lifetime, we're going to go over a quick overview and discuss spending plan, the basics anyway. What you want to do is you want to accumulate whatever type of income that you have, and then the variable and fixed expenses that you may have. As far as variable expenses, you have electricity, you have things like groceries, that sort of thing that changes on a monthly basis. As far as fixed expenses, you have your rent, mortgage, your car loans, that sort of thing that you know on a monthly basis are going to stay the same. So you want to get the total amount of expenses and then obviously subtract them from your income, and hopefully you have a certain amount left for your savings and for your investing. Now, if for some reason when subtracting it from your income, that number comes up negative, then you might have some tough decisions to make, but we'll talk about that later. What I'd like to point out now is that there is a book that I recently read called The Richest Man in Babylon, and in there, and I'm paraphrasing, it says that gold cometh and in increasing quantity to those who, or to any man who saves at least 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his or her family. Now, what that exactly means is that you should save at least 10% of your earnings for your future goals. That book was great because it gave me a philosophy that you need to pay yourself first. And whatever it is that you do as far as what you're spending in life, you need to save at least a minimum of 10% for whatever future goals you may have. And that's just one of the simple steps that I hope you take from today's speech. Another one big thing that I'd like to point out is getting out of debt. A lot of people don't realize just how important it is to get out of debt. Say for example, can you imagine how great it would be to not have any debts at all? No car loans, no mortgages, no credit card debt. I mean, it'd be fabulous, right? I at least think it would be. And I'm not there yet, but nonetheless, it's something that I want to point out today. Because, say for example, if you had your credit card here, and although your interest rate is usually very high with credit cards, there's several different ways of paying off your debt. You can use the highest interest rate to pay off first, so that way you know that you're actually not spending as much on interest. Then there's another way, which I don't necessarily particularly like, but it's getting the lowest balance of all of your debts and paying that one off first, regardless of whatever interest rate it is. And this way, you actually mentally get a sort of a motivational tool to let you know that, hey, I already paid off $645 here. That means I only have 3 instead of 4, debts in this particular scenario. Another big thing is savings, emergency savings. A lot of people don't realize how important it is to be saving for any type of miscellaneous situation that might happen to you in life. If you get into a car accident, you have insurance for that, but say you have a large expense, an unexpected one, and you really don't have any money left. Well, that's where your emergency savings comes in. And something that you should put away is at least 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. So if you earn $3,000 a month, you want to save, between $9,000 to $15,000 for that emergency. You also want to make sure that it's held in liquid, so you don't want to invest it in something that you can actually reach, and put it in an insured account, which most of them are nowadays. But you want to keep it separate from your checking or savings, because ultimately, if you have it at grasp, you might want to use it for something else instead of for an emergency. And remember that interest rates aren't really that important when it comes to the emergency savings. And as far as investments, so we are obviously taking into consideration that at this point you've already taken your 10% and you already have it ready to go ahead and invest in something. Now, this is just investing 101, so obviously I'm going to give general terms here, but the important thing is that you can either put it in stocks, you can put it in bonds, or you can save it as far as cash goes. Cash being liquid, CDs, savings, very low interest. Bonds, as you will see, is mostly U.S. corporate or government, and stocks are U.S.-based companies or international companies. Simple example here is where, say, you have savings in cash, and over a long period of time, you're not really going to see much change when it comes to cash. In bonds, you'll see a slightly higher interest rate, but not really what you probably expect. And then when it comes to stocks, although you can lose your money, you will certainly more than likely get a higher interest rate over a very long period of time. Here's an example for $10,000 over 50 years, because we're talking about hopefully young adults here who have a very long time before they actually retire. Over a long span of time, over those 50 years, cash, you'll have $43,000. As far as bonds go, you will have $145,000. But when it comes to stocks, as far as a mild 10% interest rate over 50 years, you'd have 1.6 mil. So obviously there's a huge difference in these, and that's why I normally recommend that you invest in either mutual funds or in what we have in the government right now, which is pretty cool. TSP.gov has a website where they actually do the investing for you. So if you plan to retire, say, in 2050, there's a 2050 fund where you deposit on a monthly basis, and they make the right decisions for you to invest aggressively now and eventually later on towards your career before you retire to be more moderate. So it's like less of the thinking for you and the higher return hopefully over time. And before I go, these are the 4 things that I really want to emphasize before we end this speech. As far as creating a spending plan, I cannot stress enough how important it is to save 10% towards your future goals. As far as creating a budget and sticking to it. And then, most importantly, you got to do the research once you actually have that 10% so that you can spend it or so that you invest it wisely. And also for necessary lifestyle changes, which in the case that I spoke about before, in the expenses, you might have to say, for example, make some changes. You might have to, I don't know, stop using cable or satellite. I mean, do you really need 200 channels? You might have to go to maybe just a simple cable. As far as you can make lifestyle changes such as keeping your cars longer. A lot of people usually like to change their vehicles every 2 or 3 years, but you might have to keep them for about maybe 5 or 10 years depending on your situation, and that would save you money, of course. So there are certain lifestyle changes, and nowadays with technology you could really do a lot of research online to find all of this. But this is the end of my speech. I want to thank you all for being here, and hopefully this will help you out towards your future goals. Thank you.